I'm Michael. I'm a small business owner, investor, a work in process improv artist, definitely neurotic, and always looking for something new and interesting to entertain me. I'm a TV host and your host right now for what we call the Second Scene podcast. It's a Dweebs global production where you can go for free resume help, mental health help, any type of assistance you need. They have a mentor for you from around the world. That's dweebsglobal.org. So I'm so excited. I'm here today with Pamela Maass. Pamela is a lawyer. She's done everything from being a deputy district attorney, working 43 jury trials, to multi-million-dollar civil litigations, to now owning her own estate planning firm called Law Mother. What I find really cool about Pamela, though, is she's also a comedic performer doing everything from acting, improv, and stand-up. And we all know I love my improv. So thanks for being on it today.
Thanks for having me, Michael. It's great to see you.
Yeah, totally. So I'm going to start easy, and I'm going to ask where you're from.
I'm originally from Arizona.
Okay, where are you at now?
I live in Colorado.
Okay, how is Colorado this time of year with COVID going around?
We've been I've been quarantined since last February, but it's a snowy day. We have like a little bit of snow today, but normally it's pretty mild out here.
Yeah, have you gotten out skiing?
I haven't. I am a skier. I just have a newborn baby girl, so I have not gotten up to the slopes yet, but we'll see. We're hoping to plan a trip.
Okay, it's almost a better year to have a newborn because you want to be home with them anyway. You don't have any obligation you got to run out to.
Yeah, no, it's kind of bittersweet. It's been nice to have that, nesting time. But I also like miss all human interaction. And unfortunately, we're the only faces she's seen besides on Zoom, but she's getting pretty good at Zooming.
Oh my God, she's gonna be scared of everyone. She's like, who are these people?
Right?
Yeah. So you went to law school. When did you decide you wanted to be an attorney?
So I'm the first attorney in my family. So I was kind of one of those people that grew up watching Law and Order, and that's what inspired me to become a lawyer at first, and my high school had one of those programs where we had, a mock trial team, and we had some criminal and civil law classes, and I got involved with all of that. And that's what kind of sparked my interest in it and kind of went that route.
Okay. So something you kind of always knew you wanted to do, at least from high school age.
I did. My degree before I went to law school was in engineering. I'm from an engineering family, so I did work as an engineer before I went and got an engineering degree before I went to law school.
Oh, wow. What exactly did you do with the engineering degree?
Well, so I worked for a project engineering company at the time, CH2M Hill. They're not around anymore, but I did water treatment plant design. I did all kinds of big construction projects as a civil engineer. Okay. And then went to law school.
Were you disappointed when you became a lawyer and it wasn't exactly like these trials on TV?
Oh, it was exactly like it when I went to the DA's office right out of law school. So, and I clerked for a DA's office in law school, and I would walk through the court halls and like hum to myself. Dun, 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 dun. It's like, it was, and I was in court every day and in trial. I mean, it's not exactly like it, right? So everything's not solved in a 30-minute episode. And, but I did have, coming out of law school, the more Law and Order type experience, being in court every day and being in trial every week.
Okay. I mean, I watch Night Court, so it's not like Night Court though, right? That wasn't.
It was not like Night Court, and I do remember Night Court, and I did watch Night Court, so that was a good show.
It was so funny. So was it better? Was it better than you expected? Did you end up really enjoying it? And
I mean, I'm still a lawyer, so I still love being a lawyer. Yeah, I think it's I'm one of the few lawyers that I feel like loves being a lawyer and loved law school, and I love what I get to do. But yeah, you get through periods of challenges, and there's definitely highs and lows, and it's not easy by any means. But I've kind of transitioned my career through the last 11 years, and now as a business owner. I love what I get to do. And so you get to make your own hours and make your own way when you own your own business. So yeah. I really enjoy that.
I understand that. I'm a business owner as well. And it's the best and the worst.
Right?
Some of the biggest stress on your back, but the perks are worth it.
Right? You just, you have days where it definitely makes you appreciate all the people you worked for in the past. Yeah, it's different level of stress for sure. They always say business ownership is like the greatest personal development course, and I really believe that. It's, you can't blame your boss. You are the boss.
No, you can blame your employees though. It's always
always get you real far, right?
Yeah. Did you start out as a litigation attorney? Mm-hmm. Is that right? Sorry, I'm going back.
Yeah, so I started off as a district attorney and then transitioned, and that's actually, so in law school, I wanted to get better at public speaking, to do trials, and so I went and saw a friend's improv show, and they mentioned classes, and I'm like, I will never perform, but I'm going to take a class just to make me a better lawyer. And I took the improv class and I got hooked, and then within a year I was auditioning and on a house team, and so during the day I was in court and in trials, and at night I was performing in improv shows every week. So it was a cool dynamic for sure.
Yes, I wish I had done it younger for the same. Like I would have pursued it a lot more and done a lot more of the improv, but I did it when I had 2 kids and not quite as much time.
Oh yeah.
I did it for the same reason though. I wasn't becoming a lawyer, but I was speaking in front of a lot of political events and a lot of stuff in the Capitol and for the businesses that I was doing. And I was so scared getting up in front of people, and somebody introduced me to improv, and I figured throw myself to the gauntlet and see what happens. And hopefully I can get over this fear. And it worked.
Yeah, looks like it for sure.
So, it worked for you too, I'm guessing.
It did. Absolutely. I think kind of that mix of, in a lot of ways, trials are like their own productions, right? So you're telling a story, you have witnesses like actors, it's very similar. And so just being able to, and there's so much you can't control, right? It's so unpredictable. You're having to think on your feet. So yeah, it really helped me when I was a litigator and in court, and now continues to be something that is a creative outlet, is a way to have fun and be creative as well.
Gotcha. I completely understand that. What did you do as a district attorney? What exactly does a district attorney do?
Yeah, so I was essentially in Colorado, we have an elected district attorney, that's the head, and then they hire deputy district attorneys, and we represented the people of the state of Colorado. And so it was criminal cases, very similar to Law and Order. The police would investigate the crime, and then the deputy district attorney, the prosecutor, would prosecute it in the case. So on a day-to-day basis, I would be pretty much in trial a few times a month, where there would be some type of criminal case, and I'd be presenting the case to the jury on behalf of the people of the state of Colorado. And then a lot of the rest of the time was spent speaking with victims of criminal cases, and then speaking with defendants, and doing other parts of court proceedings leading up to trial. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what a deputy district attorney does.
Okay. I just interviewed Jeffrey Deskovich, who was falsely accused. So this is why these questions are on my mind. But can you see where that might occur, how that would have happened? Or have you ever had a case where maybe somebody was like, I don't think they're guilty, but they're like, I'm the district attorney and I have to do this? Or
I was a deputy district attorney in Boulder, Colorado. And I don't know if you're familiar with Boulder, Colorado, but I'm lucky that I was in a office that is very, progressive, very, both the community and the person I was working for, and the really took a approach of rehabilitation, really took a lot of that office was a model, and still is a model for a lot of other places in the country as far as their juvenile systems. But yeah, when I first started, they start you in misdemeanor court, in traffic court, and county court, and you get some theft and you get some DUIs, and then you kind of, after I was there for a few years, I got promoted into felony district court. But even when I was there in county court, I had a lot of cases involving domestic violence, and there was always this, I always had a lot of weight of this, what happens in this case, what decision I make, or what offer I do or don't make, is really going to affect these people's lives, the victim and the defendant. And there was lots of times I was up late at night where I'd be consulting with other people and talking through. And, I think I had a good reputation of being someone that was reasonable, that would listen through things. Is the system perfect? No. Is it the type of, did I have any concerns about the cases I prosecuted? No. Like the process that we went through, the evidence, I mean, we did the right thing. If the evidence wasn't there, if the pieces weren't there, but I obviously wasn't on it as a type of case like the one you're describing. And it does happen, and it's horrible. And I have friends on both sides. I am aware of a lot of the organizations that do that type of work. My brother is a journalist, and he did a lot of work for exposing abuse in prisons in California. And so through him, I have a lot of awareness too around not only prisoner abuse, but wrongful convictions as well. But I think it's a serious problem. I don't have a strong answer as to the solution, but I do think it's important and that was the thing that my brother kind of instilled in me when I took the job, because I was looking in law school at the DA's office or the public defender's office, and he was like, we really need reasonable people in the DA's office, because district attorneys have a lot of power, and you need people that are going to be compassionate, that are going to look at the facts, that are going to take the time with people. And so I feel like that's what, while I could have gone to kind of the defense side, that was one of the real reasons I went to the prosecution side, was to have more diversity of opinions and to be able to bring that perspective for sure.
So then you also did civil litigations. I guess that was that completely different than being a district attorney?
Yeah. So a lot of times I was involved in cases involving sexual assault, and this was prior to the Me Too movement, but I had been involved in a few cases where it made sense to bring a civil case. And so I got to know some of the lawyers involved, and it was a natural progression for me. So unfortunately for sexual assault victims in the criminal justice system, in the majority of places, you don't get justice because it's so hard to prove a criminal sexual assault. Really, it's like one of the only crimes that you can survive and be a witness, and that's not enough. And so a lot of those cases aren't taken to trial. They're not criminal, but there's usually enough evidence for a civil lawsuit, either against the institutions that, like the Catholic Church or other institutions that are perpetuating it, or against the perpetrator themselves. And so that was a natural transition to me to continue to help people who could not get justice in the criminal system.
Gotcha. It almost seems like you need a serial offender before there's enough evidence against somebody in a lot of cases, which is super unfortunate.
Yeah. So it was a natural progression for me to help victims in another way, and got a great opportunity to work with both child and adult victims of sexual abuse, bringing civil lawsuits.
All right. And then you started your own law firm called Mother.
I did.
So how many kids do you have?
I have one daughter.
Okay, and she's a newborn, but she's
a newborn.
You called it. When did you open this business?
So I just changed the name of the firm after she came about. So it was originally Maass Law when I launched my firm, and with becoming a mother, with a lot of my clients being families, I really wanted to take a stand for families. And also I'm growing my firm, bringing on more attorneys, and I really wanted to have a brand that they could own as well, that wouldn't just be my last name. So wanted to go with something a little more innovative and something that would speak to more a modern world.
That's very friendly.
Yeah.
What type of law, what exactly is the type of law you practice?
So I still do some litigation, some personal injury litigation for sex assault victims. And then the majority of my practice is estate planning and legacy planning. And so really when I was a DA, I saw, some type of tragedy would happen, whether it was an accident or something more serious, and people would not have legal plans in place. They wouldn't have an estate plan in place. And as a result, their loved ones would end up in court for many years. Kids would end up in child protective services. So I became really passionate about doing proactive planning. So one of the things I love about being able to do estate planning is take my 10 years of litigation experience and bring it in a way to help people proactively plan to protect their children, to protect their family, and bring that knowledge.
I think my wills, my wife and I went and got them all together, and I think they're in a cabinet unsigned right now. So I should it's probably not what I'm supposed to do, right?
Nope, the universe has brought you here to remind you to go get that signed.
Yeah. So is that also what legacy attorney is? I've never.
Yeah. So yeah, legacy. I also do asset protection. Yeah. So legacy is just another way for really making sure that the legacy you're creating now is protected for you and for your children.
Okay. All right. What type of clients do you have that come to you for that?
Yeah. So I have a mix. I have clients that are, in their 30s. I even have clients in their 20s and 40s who have young children or are business owners or professionals and really just want to have a plan in place if something were to happen to them. And then I have kind of the baby boomer generation who has children that are my age and wants to have a plan in place, making sure that everything's protected.
When should people have a plan in place? Should they have it whether or not they have a bank account with money in it, or is there a certain other protections that I'm just not thinking about that you would need it, that has nothing to do with financial?
Yeah, so I love that question. And the answer is yes, there are other things besides financial to think about. For the financial piece, I don't believe that there's a certain net worth you should have to have an estate plan in place. Because, some people will say it's 100,000, some people say 500, some people will say $1 million. And it's really arbitrary. So instead, what I like to do is explain to my families that I work with is, what would happen to their family under different scenarios. If they have no plan in place, it will be the state's plan for them, which is often very costly, very time consuming, and you don't have control, right? It's a judge, a stranger making the decisions. And then with an estate plan in place, you can have a lot more control. And for most of my clients, I would say they aren't multimillionaires, right? They traditionally fall into more the middle class where they have a home, they have life insurance, they have retirement accounts, they're saving up for the future. I have a lot of clients who want to make sure that if something were to happen to them where their children are minors, that they know who would take care of their kids. And then I do folks that own businesses, because a lot of people don't realize if you own a business and you don't have a succession plan in place, your business is going to go through probate if something happens to you. And disability planning. So unfortunately, most of us at some point are going to become disabled or incapacitated. And even with a pandemic, people are sometimes put in that situation and hopefully they recover. But people with COVID have had periods of incapacitation. And so making sure that those documents are in place, whether that's your medical powers of attorney or advanced healthcare directives, and making sure your financial decisions could be made by who you'd want, or that your bills can be paid until you can recover.
Got you. Okay. I love that you've created this firm and it's called Law Mother. It's I like it all. And what I really want to talk about though is your improv and your comedy.
I was waiting for that.
I know. I had to get through the other stuff, which is super interesting as well. So what do you enjoy doing the most? Acting, improv, or stand-up?
Definitely improv. I feel like I'm the worst at improv though, of all of it. Like stand-up, I'm always much better at. But I think I just enjoy improv the best. But I'm not getting to do any of that right now with COVID. But
I'm so jealous of people who think they're good improv artists.
Right? Yeah. Well, I do know a lot of really good ones. I feel like I never was a good, so to say, improviser, but I always put a lot of heart into it and just love it. Love the community. At least out in Colorado, our improv community is amazing. And, there's so many people who they're all doing it for fun, right? They're not trying to get on, you know, on a traveling Second City team. They're not trying to get on SNL. So they all just come there and bring a lot of fun, and it's great.
Yeah, for the most part, it doesn't seem like improv is a stepping stone to stardom, at least. At least not in the areas that I go.
Unless you live in Chicago.
Yeah.
If you live in Chicago.
And not to discount, we have some super talented people in the DC area that I improv with, and man, I hope they get found by somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope they can use me to bounce off and my noviceness when I'm out there. I try to explain to people that it's really such an amazing community, because the whole premise of improv is yes and. So it's people agreeing with you or just going along with whatever you're saying. So the whole natural premise of it is just to support each other.
Oh yeah, and I've partnered up with some of my improv friends, and we've done workshops for lawyers, like improv for lawyer things, and people get such a great thing out of it too. And then they're not even trying to perform. Yeah, it's exactly what you're describing. And there's so many great companies out there that do improv for team building and all of that, for sure.
Oh yeah, my last Christmas party for my stores, I brought one of the improv teachers to the restaurant we were at, and they did about an hour at improv. And I got to tell you, all of the employees were like, "I can't believe we're going to do this. What is my boss making me do?" And they all loved it. After the hour, they're like, "Can we do this next year again?" Like,
yeah, when I first started taking improv, I would go home and visit my family, and I'd make them do all the improv exercises with me and like warm up, and they loved it. They were so great. Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like improv, people really think you're like crazy and they don't want to do it, and then they start doing it and they're like, "This is actually really fun."
It's kind of a cult. We're kind of in a I feel like it's kind of a cult we're in.
Absolutely. And I feel like in the beginning, all my friends were really supportive and came to my improv shows, and then that drops off pretty quickly.
Yep.
And like improvisers like to see improv shows.
It's true. Have you done any online? Have you been doing any Zoom?
No, I have been doing a lot of videos for my business. So I do TikToks that are kind of about motherhood and just fun. And then I do like estate planning TikToks too. So that's been my whole creative outlet right now is doing that kind of stuff.
Okay. And you do stand-up as well, correct? I actually watched some of your stand-up, so I know that.
Oh, thanks. It's been a little while. I was I was planning when I got pregnant that I wanted to do like another, because I love Ali Wong's series on Netflix when she's pregnant giving stand-up. I don't know if you've seen it. Baby Cobra, I think is what. It's amazing. And so after I watched that, as soon as I became pregnant, I'm like, I'm gonna do stand-up pregnant. It's gonna be amazing. And then COVID hit and I couldn't. So I've had a few friends do the Zoom stand-up shows, and I haven't gotten into doing that.
What's it like to get on stage I can't imagine doing stand-up and being alone there with the microphone with the sole goal of making people laugh, and just I'd still be so frightened to try that.
Yeah, that's what I said too. I was like, exactly what you said before I started doing stand-up. But once you tell the first joke and people laugh, you just go into the flow. You just love it. It's just amazing. I think that the amazing thing about stand-up is just that that energy you feel from the crowd and that relationship you get to have with the crowd. It's totally different than improv. Like improv, you get to have that with your teammates, and that's amazing. But it's just like being able to look them in the eyes and share it, and it's just so powerful. You should definitely try it. You should do it at some point. It's really
sweating thinking about it. Because I have a lot of bad nights. I have my improv team that I can lean on. And
right. I did work with a mentor, Christina Hall. I'll give her a shout out, and I can give you a link for her. She does a stand-up comedy workshop, and she also will help people tighten up their sets. And so through her stand-up comedy workshop, a few improvisers I knew had done it. And so I jumped on the bandwagon because, you know me, anytime there's a class involved or a degree, I'm going to do it. And so I did it. And it's a 2-week process, and you write all your jokes, you refine them, and then she like coaches you through doing it. And then the catch is you have to invite your like entire community to the show. And you think it's so terrifying but that's part of the transformation. She's like, you don't know if you're going to do well, but you have to invite everyone so we can have a big crowd here. So my first show was in that environment. There was 200 people at our improv comedy club. There were me and like 8 other first-time comedians, and we all got up there and did it, and it all landed really well. And the audience, and it was a really amazing first stand-up comedy experience. And but I was still like, the adrenaline before I went on stage was like nothing. Like I really felt like I was going to pass out. Like I've never had that bad of stage fright before I went up the first time. And then I said my first joke and the crowd laughed, and I was like, okay, and then you kind of just feed off the energy because you know it, like from your improv, like you feed off the energy. And then that was so much fun that I started, I submitted to our local comedy competition, and then I submitted to festivals, and then I kept writing, and then I just kept improving and getting better jokes. And it's just been a fun journey of kind of learning. But yeah, it's the fear is there. I think she always told us, you know, you don't go out there to make them laugh. Like that's not going to work, right? Like you can't, like that's not the energy you have to bring. Like the energy you have to bring is the energy you want to feel, right? So if you want to feel joy from them, if you want to feel love from them, if you want to feel whatever it is that like authenticity, whatever it is, you bring that energy. And it helps when you're delivering your jokes, you're not delivering them from a place of wanting to make them laugh. You're delivering them with the emotion that joke leads, right? So that also helps. But I've had bad shows since then, right? Like I had really like one of the big lessons I had was don't do stand-up comedy at an event that has like almost like a talent show, like a showcase of different. So stand-up comedy, you really need to be in a environment that's for stand-up comedy. People have to be like pumped for it. You have to, you know, there's a science to it. And when you do a variety show, you don't have that. So like I didn't know that. So I went right after this like slam poet that had this like really dark, like, and then I went up and did my normal set, and like, no, I'm like, people usually laugh at this punchline. Like nobody laughed. Like all my friends were there. It was like the most embarrassing show I've ever done. I'm like, I swear this killed it at Comedy Works like 2 weeks ago. And then, so you have bad stuff like that. I did a show with a group of people where and there was a lot of good comics in it, but we did some comedy show like in a bookstore. I don't know why we did it in a bookstore. Someone got the gig and all the people were doing it. So I was like, okay, like if he's doing it, I'll do it. Like there's all good people there. And literally, it wasn't a Barnes & Noble, but it was like a Barnes & Noble. We are in the middle of a bookstore, like, and people are shopping, and we're doing stand-up comedy. And then there was like these 2 chairs in the front, and these 2 little boys, they must have been like 7 years old, like came and sat down, and they were like the only ones watching the show, and then everyone else was just, it was the weirdest show I've ever done. But yeah, so I have plenty of stories like that of like really, really doing a hack job and it not being fun. But after you've done enough that go well, you have more confidence that, you know.
Yeah, I don't get as nervous anymore. I still get nervous, not as much, because I realized after a few really bad shows that people don't remember them like you do. So it doesn't matter that much. Like it's okay. It's done and gone, and a day later it's out of that person's life, whoever saw it. So it's not a...
The interesting thing about improv too versus stand-up is like people still like improv, even if it's not always funny. Like sometimes it's just interesting, right? Like I've watched really good improv that hasn't made me laugh hysterically the whole time, but I've still really enjoyed it. Like I enjoy the characters and I enjoy the story. Like, so, and sometimes it's just, yeah, it's but sometimes you go in weird places too, right?
Oh, when you say something and you're like, oh no.
Sweep.
Somebody wipe for me, please. Save me. So did you have jokes? Were you already writing jokes before you took your first stand-up class?
No. And so through the process, I mean, I've always been a big stand-up fan, and I've always like do my own stuff, but I always say I laugh more. I think I have a good sense of humor. I don't think I'm like a natural comedian by any means. But yeah, through that class, I mean, I guess I will back up. When I started doing improv, I got on the sketch team. And so I was writing sketches for our sketch shows. And so I got in the habit of writing comedy for that. But I never thought I was going to do stand-up. So I didn't have like a stand-up joke book back then. And then when I started doing the class, that's when I started writing jokes and keeping my journal and putting things down.
Okay, because I know that's one of the things that's probably kept me from doing stand-up. Probably a lot of other people is, well, I don't write jokes, so how am I going to go do stand-up? But
yeah, so I definitely think like there's a few really good books out there on stand-up comedy writing, and there's other people besides Christina Hall in other states that teach classes. But there is it's a real writing form, and there's a real technique, and there are naturally funny people, but there is a technique to put jokes in the right format for them to be funny, right? So once you learn that, like, it's very teachable, and you can't, like, my point is, if you have the comedic sense of being an improv, you have the same talent to do stand-up. And really, I feel like anyone could be a stand-up comedian. It's really, do you have the desire to put the work in and learn it, the art, and you have to go through the practice, right? And you have to put yourself out there. But I definitely think you could do it, and it would be a really fun experience, and you should do it for sure.
Oh, man. I might have to. I don't know. It feels like a challenge in a way.
If you have the desire, I'm like, if I can do it, I'm like, if my yeah. So, but there is like a set format for how to write jokes, and the process that I went through, that a lot of comedians go through, is, I'm not writing the joke first, I'm writing the setup. So the setup isn't funny, right? The setup is some strong observation, some strong opinion, and then the actual punchline of the joke is the second part. So the writing process that I went through and that I learned was, really like mining my brain and my past and everything about like those strong setups, and then the punchlines kind of flow from there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's all technique. I'm amazed still with how much technique there is with improv.
Oh my gosh, improv. Yeah, I think improv is way harder.
But even like, I'm sure people, they heard you say swipe and me say wipe, and they're like, what's this? These inside jokes these people are telling. But it's all like, everything is turned. And by the way, that's when somebody said, when you end a scene, somebody says either swipe or wipe or.
Yeah, when you said wipe, I was like, ooh, is that what he called? Is that what they call it in the DC improv scene?
Is it like an East Coast, West Coast thing? I don't
know.
So are you dying to get back out there when COVID ends? Are you building up jokes? Are you building up just a wanting to be back on stage? Or?
I think it's a little bit different with me having a newborn. I do have, like, I've started, pulling stuff together from kind of the motherhood process and all of that. But I do feel like my priorities have kind of shifted, and I am really enjoying kind of just sharing my comedy online in the form of social media.
That's great. Where can people find you? Where can they come check out some of this?
Yeah, so on my voice just went up real high for a second. So my Instagram is LawMotherCO, and on TikTok I'm LawMother, and my website is lawmother.com.
Okay, perfect.
And I also host a podcast, the Working Moms Podcast, and you can find that at lawmother.com too.
Okay, and I will put all those links on the YouTube and the podcast, so people can find. Sounds great. Thank you so much. This has been,
thank you.
Yeah, tons of fun. I want to see you perform. So hopefully I make it out to Colorado.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. It was great chatting.
It's so nice. So thank you everyone who's watching. I'm Michael. This has been Second Scene Podcast. And again, it's a Dweebs Global production. So if you need resume help, mental health help, anything, help, it's free. dweebsglobal.org. And we'll see you next week.